but Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's 43 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. and I do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda. Thank you. I hope you returned quite feeling positive from that weekend where we did enjoy a lot of action. I missed much of Sunday action because I was attending a function. Like I told you, for those of you that were part of a broadcast, short broadcast that lasted about half an hour last night, as we talked about what Manchester United had done in the weekend, as also we kept tabs on that game between Morocco and Comoros. Speaking of Morocco, they are off to a winning start following that magnificent game between the hosts, and that's the Atlas Lions of Africa against Comoros. Very, very beautiful game of football in which Morocco missed a penalty. So we're going to be discussing that this beautiful morning. Good morning, Pedri. How are you doing? You say, I'm watching every AFCON match. It feels like a World Cup. If you're dedicating to watching every AFCON match, then really, I must say thank you, because I do not know how popular or unpopular or whichever way, whatever words may be fit to use when it comes to the Africa Cup of Nations to Europe. And usually because it comes at a time when league football is continuing over on the other side. Premier League, Spanish La Liga, German Bundesliga, French League One, Italian Serie A. So ordinarily, you have football fans overseas, or particularly in Europe and elsewhere, largely focused on their domestic leagues. And I do not hold it against them. My only question at the back of my mind is how many will say, okay, I will miss this match, maybe on TV, and then instead watch the AFCON, and that kind of thing. I know that there are the fans who say, oh, I like Victor Osimhen, I'll watch each and every game that he plays, or maybe I'll watch Nigeria for that reason. Some club fans, for example, if you're a Manchester United fan, you may say, I want to see what Brian Mbeumo does with Cameroon and things like that. I want to watch Carlos Baleba, if a player that we are being linked with, how he gets to perform out there, and those kinds of things. So for me, that's where the interest is, or the question lies. To what extent does that happen, really, if it is the case? Pedri says, I do not care about league football when international tournaments take place. That's Pedri. I'm sure there could be a couple of others like him. But yeah, I thought it was a very, very beautiful game of football to watch yesterday. The opening ceremony I thought was beautiful. I don't know. I'm one of those. I've seen a certain level of progression. Of course, with the exception of Barcelona. Pedri says, I completely understand. I've seen this sort of level of progression in terms of the improving on details of how CAF are organizing their events. And particularly for me, it has everything to do with the leadership and the kind of mindset that they do have, in terms of how they go about this. Because one, sometimes it is about the money, but it's not always about the money. So the artists they bring, the choreography they prepare or they set out to do at the start of the tournament, the entertainment for the fans. I've also seen, in my opinion, an improvement on the kind of game that we get to watch on the turf out there. Yes, smaller teams still get beat, but yes, when you watch their performances, when you watch their competitiveness, it's not like teams go out there and get obliterated. We've seen high-scoring games, we've seen low-scoring games, as it happens with any other tournament. So I think for me, that's been one of the very, very impressive stuff. To be honest, I remember Uganda Cranes are playing against Morocco, and And this is before we qualified, I think, for the 2017 edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. And because I stand to be corrected, I think we beat Morocco by a goal to nil at Nambole Stadium for us to be able to qualify for that edition. Farouk Mia scoring that goal. So, based on what I watched yesterday, I saw good football from Comoros, a country that ordinarily you'd undermine, a country that ordinarily you'd not expect to play that kind of football or that quality of football, but I thought it was really, really nice. But yeah, there was a missed penalty in that game, as we're going to see. Pedro says, I can't wait for tomorrow, Tunisia versus Uganda. I mean, I do feel for Uganda. We're going to speak about the Uganda Cranes in just a bit. There's been some, media reports that are quite painful to learn about that have been ongoing in the Uganda Cranes camp. Respectfully, I think Tunisia will win like 2-1. I mean, as Uganda, we've always struggled against what we call the Arab countries from North Africa. So it wouldn't be too much of a surprise to me or any Ugandan out there. However, I want us to go there and perform and, give them a run for their money. If they're going to beat us, let's not make it easy for them, in that kind of sense or in that kind of respect. That is what I would, I demand for. In any case, if that is bang, if that is what is going to happen at the end of the day. Oh, okay. So really, that would be my expectation on that regard. Just a second. There's something I forgot to set up, and I've seen why it wasn't working out for me. Okay, just a second. All right. Pedri says, oh, okay. I think I've read that comment. Oh, he says Italy and nothing in front of Comoros. What was that defense in the first half? No wonder their manager is Italian, Vita Vicenzo. The very organized, well-drilled side, in as far as what we witnessed yesterday was concerned. So, Rahimi, his other name is a little bit, he's Sofian Rahimi. Yes, he did miss a penalty. There was a foul in the area. The referee gave the penalty, and they missed the resultant penalty. And by the way, it's not because it was a poor penalty. It was just because the Comoros goalkeeper did his due diligence. He did his work really, really well. So because usually I feel that goalkeepers do not get the credit they deserve. Tell us the news about Ugandan camp. What happened? I'm going to tell you in just a bit. So, so Rahimi missed the penalty. Eventually, the game. Pedro says, I prefer El Nasiri to start. He's talking about, I think, the former Sevilla player there who is currently playing in Turkey, there. So, really, so when Rahimi missed his penalty, slightly, or expectedly, you saw Morocco dominate the game in terms of ball possession. And in fact, when you look at the statistics, they dominated possession to the tune of 70%. That was to be expected. They had a total of 7 shots on goal. 5 were on target. Really, Comoros had only 2, and they were both on target. Comoros looked to be quite solid defensively, and then tried to, stretch Morocco on the counter-attack. It did not yield any fruit by the end of the first stanza because it was goalless. And then in the second half, Real Madrid's Brahim Diaz scored to open to break the deadlock. That was 10 minutes after the restart, with Manchester United's Nusa Mazraoui providing the assist there. And then El Kabi, I mean, what a goal. It was only match day 1, and he was already giving us goal of the tournament vibes there with that, volley with Salah with Salah Eddin providing the assist to make it 2-0. That goal coming in the 74th minute. Morocco had, some few other close calls. You say a forgotten player with some Ben Yedder. I mean, to be honest, or to be fair to them, it's not like I do not think they are forgotten. It comes when you have a plethora of talent at your disposal. Take the example of Spain. By the time Spain wins the 2010 World Cup, just look at the players that were on the bench. They were full of quality. Though these were very, very good players, if not world-class players. But they were on the bench. Why? Because at the time, Spain had better for those that were starting. So basically, sometimes even these North African teams find themselves in that situation. And it's also happened with South Africa and some West African teams. As far as Uganda or East Africa is concerned, I do not think we have enough talent in terms of top elite talent to say, yeah, we're spoiled for choice here. We produce very good defenders oftentimes and things like that. Creative midfielders will fallen short on more occasions than we would have loved to. So I do not think they are forgotten. I simply think it comes when you have a plethora of talent. It's happened to Egypt before. It's happened to Egypt before. So really, we'll take it for that. So, anyways, a beautiful winning start, well deserved. Team Morocco, congratulations upon that victory. We did not expect anything less. We expected that Morocco will go out there and win their game. They are the hosts. They are one of the favorites. So going off to a winning start, I think gives them that bit of advantage. Pedro says, I think Morocco just had to drag Comoros out of their defensive setup and had to increase the play tempo, basically to get opponent penalty box via 4 or 5 passes. That's Pedro's comment. I mean, you see, for purposes of clarity, or based on what people are customarily well familiar with, look at it the same way Barcelona will play a Getafe, and Getafe wants to, sit back and defend and look to exploit a Barcelona on the counter, or look at it the way, an Everton played against Arsenal or a Wolverhampton Wanderers. Basically, that's how Comoros came up against Morocco. They knew that Morocco were the better side. They knew that they couldn't go toe-to-toe with them in terms of ball distribution, ball dominancy, and things like that. So they decided to play. They asked what would be our competitive advantage against Morocco. Maybe let's defend our goal jealously and then look to exploit them on the counterattack. And you could see that every time they had the opportunity, they tried to play that long ball through the channels for their forwards to try and run to. It's not a strategy that bore our fruit. It's just that eventually Morocco were able to outsmart them. And even when you see both goals for Morocco, none of them is, a direct set piece play that they got their goal. So I think Morocco will be proud of themselves on how they went about that, or on how they were able to unlock Comoros on the day. Then quickly today, in today's fixtures, Mali are up against Zambia at 5 p.m. East African time. I do not know whether I'll be able to catch that game due to some, work that I'll be on to, but I'll try and catch as much of football as I can when it comes to this tournament, God willing, if he grants me the health and, the resources. Then South Africa at 8 p.m. will be up against Angola, and then we will have a late kickoff between Egypt and Zimbabwe at 11 p.m. Now, please remember that because of Morocco's proximity, Morocco is 2 hours ahead of our time. So if it is 5 p.m., that means the actual kickoff in Morocco is 3 p.m. So when I say 11 p.m., that means it's 9 p.m. for them. because of their proximity with Spain, Portugal, that their timelines are not much different, really. And I think very soon we'll be getting back to that zone where I think we're only 2 hours apart. Pedro also says today Egypt play Mozambique, South Africa, Angola. I'm excited to watch South Africa because I've never watched them properly. I need to know how they play so I know what to expect for the World Cup 2026. Expect a team that plays good football. Expect a team that struggles to get things done. They're a very good team on paper, but they struggle to get things done. You know, they will create features here and there. They have some dead ball specialists, but at the end of the day, they miss that cutting edge. They miss that final piece of the jinx that gets them over the line. That's how oftentimes South Africa do come off. But we'll wait and see what they will have to deliver on the day. And Egypt up against Zimbabwe. I do feel for Zimbabwe there against Egypt. They come up against the most successful team in as far as the Africa Cup of Nations is concerned. And then tomorrow, that will be Tuesday, DRC Congo will be up against Benin at 3:30 p.m. That means it will be around 1:30 p.m. Over in Morocco. Senegal at 6 p.m. will be up against Botswana, while Nigeria will take on Tanzania, and Uganda in the late kickoff at 11 p.m. will be up against Tunisia. Then on Wednesday, you'll have action between Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea at 3:30 p.m. Algeria will take on Sudan at 6 p.m., while at 8 p.m., Ivory Coast will be up against Mozambique, and Cameroon will take on Gabon at 11 p.m. Now, do you think Titi Vision says, hello, Titi. Good to have you back on the broadcast. Do you think they will make it out of the group stage? Do you mean South Africa? I mean, it's hard to say. Sometimes they scrap their way through, but it's not an easy group. I do fancy them to maybe get second place. That is how I fancy them. But they can also disappoint us. So we'll have to just wait and see. Titi, let us know what were your impressions of the first game of the Africa Cup of Nations. There, Titi, joining us from Morocco. So about the Uganda Cranes and the news in the camp. Now, a couple of days ago, the Uganda Cranes team did not train. Why? Players were on a sit-down strike. That is what we are hearing. They were on a sit-down strike because of unpaid allowances emanating from the games they played in the Africa Cup Nations qualifiers to take them to the tournament. Now, our team has, I do not know what happens with other respective national teams, but they do get much, bonuses. If they win a game, maybe this is how much they get every player. If they draw a game, if they lose, maybe I think if they lose, they get like, is it like $200? Then when they draw, about 500, and if they win, around $1,000, something like that. Those are not the actual figures. Those may not be the actual figures, but last I checked, it had been around that ballpark. So usually the Federation of Uganda Football Associations owes them these, monies. I do not know the context within which the Federation of Uganda Football Associations run their financials, but it's a bit fishy. And not fishy in the sense of they're hiding something, but fishy in the sense of their communication to these players is sometimes poor. Two, when they fall short of the expectations that are expected of them, they try to sweep it under the carpet. They want to sort of hide their secrets. I mean, they do not deserve to tell the world, but I'll give you an example. The Uganda Airlines has found themselves in the press for all the bad reasons. They had one of their aircraft's engine suffer a mechanical problem. And from what we are hearing, it's because the engine had done or completed its trips that are set for it. So, for example, if you buy a Mercedes Benz, they'll give you a warranty, let's say over 100,000 kilometers. After that, they're not responsible for anything mechanical that may happen to your car. So, in this particular case, apparently the engine broke down. What resulted was passengers being stranded at airports in Dubai, in London. I don't know, but I presume even among other places. Now, instead of the Uganda Airlines maybe partnering with other airlines to say, let's pay you and you help us transport these passengers, they did not do that. So you had people be stranded at airports for days. And with that, the airlines communicating. Really, I'm hearing they continue to accept bookings. So their failure to communicate to their passengers on time for something that they knew had happened to them. I mean, bad things happen to people all the time. Businesses suffer problems for which they ought to communicate about. I mean, so for example, if you're meant to, let's say, supply water, maybe to a hotel, and then on your way to deliver the supply, you have an accident, you call the hotel and say, look, guys, I've been involved in an accident while trying to deliver your water. Can you give me maybe a day or two to figure this out so that I can come good? Or can we get alternatives in the interim? That kind of thing. So the lack of communication. So particularly, even within the Uganda Cranes hierarchy camp versus the Federation of Uganda Football Associations, you feel that direct communication, that candid communication amongst the players, not to the general public, is lacking. And it's not the first time this is happened. You know, players to be owed bonuses. Sometimes players are being owed bonuses for previous editions of a tournament. And this is almost a year, maybe a year or even two after that actual tournament was played. And you see the federation gets money from not government, but also FIFA. They get about 17 billion Uganda shillings, which is approximately, I do not know, maybe about, let's see, let's do the quick math, about 4-point-something million dollars, around that, per annum to take care of the national team. So in this particular case, apparently players decided to go on a sit-down strike and not train because they are owed bonuses but also because they lack clarity in what the model is going to be when it comes to their allowances. You know, how much are they going to be paid per day for as long as they are at the tournament? Now, this is not unique to the Uganda Cranes. We've had such things with the Nigerian national team. And we're talking about a country that has the biggest economy on the African continent. You know, they have the biggest population on the continent. So really, sometimes African teams suffer those, but largely for me, it's due to the incompetency of the leadership with the respective federations. I have a feeling that, people want to gamble with people's money. How? So, for example, let's say I'm supposed to pay Pedri $1,000. Usually, what our people do, and not all of them, but some people, they will hold on to that money. Let's say they want to hold on to it for about 6 months or 3 months. So they will put it in a fixed deposit account or in some form of unit trust or anything that accumulates interest, almost on a daily, and then exit it after that period, so that they make a profit off of it. So maybe if I anticipate that if I hold on to Pedri's $1,000 for a period of 6 months, it will have made me $200, then I'm going to hold on to it so that after 6 months, I earn myself $200 and then I can pay Pedri his $1,000, which comes at the inconvenience of him. So those kinds of things do happen, unfortunately. So, okay, back to some of your comments. Titi says, well, a bit nervous, but that goal by El Kabi was lit. What do you think about your chances against Tunisia? our chances are really, really minimal when it comes to Tunisia. We have that bogey history against uh, teams from North Africa, particularly teams like Algeria, teams like Morocco, teams like Tunisia, teams like Libya, Egypt. We sort of tend to struggle against those teams, really. So I'm not. My expectations of winning the game are close to none, really. But what I do want to see is us playing good football, is us to be competitive, is us not to, go and, for whatever reasons happening behind the scenes or in our closets or in the bedroom, as far as the camp is concerned, can we put them to aside and play a good game? You know, if we can pick up a point, well and good. If we can miraculously beat Tunisia, well and good. But I do not expect us to beat up against, Tunisia. That will be tomorrow. Pedri says, I booked tickets to watch the semi-finals and final of the AFCON because it's very close to Spain. It's like 40 minutes. Whoever makes it, I will enjoy it. Personally, I think the final will include Senegal versus Morocco. That's Pedri's prediction for the final. Yeah, I was speaking about this the other day that Morocco and Spain are in proximity, that it's very, very easy for people from either of those two countries to travel in between each other. It's just literally a strip of water that separates them. I think it's the water. Is it the one from the Mediterranean Sea flowing towards the ocean? Something like that. So Titi says his players didn't even train. Exactly. I mean, I do not know whether it's gone on for more than one day, but again, I'm for direct communication. If you think somebody's payment is going to be delayed, if you think you're going to fall short for somebody, communicate to them and say, guys, look here. I know your expectations are this, and we ought to have paid you this by now, but we are facing some financing gaps here and there, or government is yet to release money to us, or whatever the reason is, and communicate to them. They are human beings. They understand. They know how things work back at home. If the issue is with government, or if it has anything to do with a delayed release, whatever the circumstance is, because sometimes also the federation relies on monies from its partners in the form of sponsors. So if it's that kind of case, be communicative and tell these players, give them clarity so that they know what they are working with. Now, when it comes to the allowances for this particular tournament, set them out. Say nothing has changed from what we've been operating with under previous tournaments. It will be the same model. That is what you should expect. If every day you're in camp, you're expected to receive $100 as your allowances, on top of us providing the accommodation, whatever the case is, let that be the case. If it is $200, let that be the case. If it's $150, if it's $300, whatever the case is, be communicative and be candid with those players. Titi says, I hope you have a fun time in Morocco. Pedri, he says, thank you. At least the tickets aren't stupid crazy like the World Cup 2026. By the way, I think now is the most ideal time to book tickets for the semi-finals, for the finals, for the quarterfinals, because we are yet to know what teams will be playing there. So if, let's say, you have a semi-final between Egypt and Algeria, or at the quarterfinal, that's a huge game. That's a huge game, So, and by the time it comes around, then ticket prices, I'm sure they may not double, but they may go a notch higher. Pedri, just let me know, how much did you book your tickets for? How much are they going for? The reason as why I do not interest myself into much ticket prices is because I'm never going to the tournaments. I do not have friends directly that I know are going for these tournaments, really. So it's just what it is for me. Okay. Titi says, for I live in Texas and I cannot afford those tickets. It will be cheaper to go to the AFCON finals. Okay, exactly. At least you're not like Cameroon, who has two different managers and two different squads lists. They can't decide on one. Even Even Eto took out Abubakar, so his goal record isn't broken. Abubakar needs 11 goals. I mean, we've heard of those those reports, but what is happening with the indomitable lions of West Africa is really really unfortunate. It's really really unfortunate because when you have two elephants embroiled in a fight, it like we often say, it's the grass that suffers. So in this particular case, it's the players that suffer because of being caught in confusion. Because when you look at those two squad lists, at least some names appeared on both lists. So if you're a player, which camp are you going to? But I took note that one of the squads had been in camp training. Titi says Tunisia have a good team, but they struggle in competitions for some reason. You definitely have a chance, in my opinion. Yes, they do struggle in competitions. That's true. Like I did say, the last time I saw them do really, really well at the Africa Cup of Nations was back in 2004 when they went on to win it. I stand to be corrected, but I think they may have beaten maybe Cameroon by goal to nil in the finals, or whichever team they faced. It was a 1-0 victory. I remember still in my primary school, and we used to literally escape from the main campus to go to what was referred as the brothers section to try and watch the AFCON of that edition. So yeah, we can only hope for the best. We can only hope for the best. Semi-finals is $70. Final is $110. They are amazing seats. The cheapest ticket for the World Cup for the World Cup final is $4,000. I mean, we discussed that the other time, and I was like, this is just crazy. It's just crazy, They may as well say the World Cup final is for the rich, for those that can afford to go to Monaco and watch, Formula One. Basically, that's the target market, not the rest of you, taka, in that kind of sense, guys. So, guys, that's what to expect in as far as the Africa Cup of Nations is concerned, particularly this week. And I will do look forward to every game. I cannot guarantee that I'll watch every single game, but I'll do my best to, in between work and other schedules, to keep tabs on what's to come in as far as the tournament is concerned. So we'll see what happens. So yeah. Then quickly, today there's action coming our way in as far as football is concerned. In the Premier League, Fulham will be up against Nottingham Forest at 11 p.m. In the Spanish La Liga, there's a game between Athletic Bilbao and Espanyol. While in the Italian Super Cup, Napoli will be up against Bologna at 10 p.m. So do not miss out on any of that action in as far as Monday football is concerned. As I've already told you, there's also AFCON, so action will be ongoing there, For the Fulham Nottingham Forest game, I think my prediction had been a 2-1 victory for Fulham. No, it had been a 1-1 draw between these two sides. I do not know whether that will be that will change. Different salaries. Americans spend $100 for dinner. In Africa, it's different. I mean, yeah, Titi, I understand it's different, but when you go to, I was watching a podcast by Trevor Noah, and they had the New York City mayor-elect on set, Mamdani, who we all know is Ugandan. And he said the average salary of a bus driver was anywhere between 25, or no, he said, I think 28 to 30 or $32,000 per year. That's an average of 2,500 or $2,800 to 3,000 per month on average. Really, when you look at that, it's not too far off with what people earn in Africa. And I mean, even though it's very few of the Africans who earn that, but My point is, when you look at the costs that they have to meet, that maybe you have childcare or child support, or you have rent, you have or a mortgage, or you have electricity, you have internet. The way the European economy structure is structured, we know that there are those monthly payments that you're having to make. What is left for an individual is really not much. So that means even if you are earning $4,000 a month, you cannot afford a $4,000 ticket to watch a final. Why? Because let's say after all expenses, you're left with about $1,500. That is before you look at clothing, that's before you look at feeding, or maybe your Metro card. So it becomes a bit difficult. So again, even though they can afford to spend $100 on lunch and dinner, or dinner, it's still, it's not every day. It's not every day. Sometimes people have to take meals of $20, and based on what I've had, for example, somebody will go to a McDonald's and grab a burger with some chips, or to a KFC, some chips and chicken, and they live off of that. So I've had. Okay. Pedri says, just watch it at home, watch it with friends, very comfortable, enjoy commentary, go to the toilet, not noisy, unlimited snacks. It's just more convenient. I might still go to watch Spain in the World Cup. Pedri is a bourgeoisie, if we were to use that word. It's a French word that meant the rich. So Pedri is well off, but even he acknowledges that $4,000 is unrealistic. Really, is not a thing that an everyday person, whether from the richest country in Europe, is just going to comfortably cough out for a match day ticket. Currencies are also different. A bus driver in Africa might earn less because they buy more with every dollar they earn. The other thing we ought to put in context here is Africa, in terms of society, people do not largely live on credit as the way it could be in the US. So, for example, in the US, when, let's say, you've used up your $3,000 for the month and you still have a week to go until your next paycheck, you may be having a credit card for which you say, okay, I'll try and limit myself and use not more than $500 just to survive this week until my next paycheck, as I figure things out. In Africa, you do not have that. I've told you guys before, roughly in a month. So you have, for example, I'll speak to the Ugandan context. In Uganda's former working population, when I say former working population, I mean people that have jobs known to government, that is formal employment. You have less than 60% earning above $1 million shillings. Above $1 million shillings is essentially almost $300, thereabout, maybe $310. So you can imagine, put that into your context and make it make sense. You have this individual, usually people earning that, they're spending anywhere between $80 to $100 on their rent. So that's already, something knocked off. Then you have transport. Here, transport is not cheap. I do not know with the context with all African countries, but particularly for Uganda, it's not cheap. So at the end of the month, you're also spending another $100 on transport between home and work every single day. That's Monday to Friday. If you're a Monday to Friday, some people work Monday to Saturday, some people work Monday to Monday. Then you have feeding. You also have, you want, to upgrade your closet. it's not every month, but once in a while you need to pick a shirt or two or a trouser, something. Then, as you also ordinarily know, in Africa, we have something called black tax, that whoever succeeds or has a semblance of success, which is having a job and you earning a salary, is that people, your family, your colleagues are going to be calling onto you to say, look here, I need your help here and there. So you may have to cough out sometimes $10, $20 to help them. It's a thing. It's a cultural thing. It's at your discretion to do so, but it's a Ubuntu thing. So when you look at the different contexts, it's still difficult. It's still difficult. When you look at the averages, I'm going to watch group stages. Maybe the wealth difference in America and Africa is egregious. Yes. Is that the what? I mean, so yeah, I understand completely. You see, where Americans earn more, they also spend more. In other words, their cost of living is equally high. So, for example, the difference is in Uganda, you can give me $3, and I'll be able to survive off of that throughout the day. And I'll have had breakfast, I'll have had lunch, I'll have had dinner / supper with just $3. Whereas if you give $3 to an American, I don't know whether that can buy them a cup of coffee, because a cup of coffee could be going for $5. So that's the difference in context sometimes. So yeah. But anyways, back to the conversation as we look to wrap this one up before I get to go to, to run other errands and do some other stuff. Really interesting stuff, interesting bits. Oh, Titi says $3 will buy you water. So with $3, I can afford those 3 meals, particularly here in Uganda. That means I'm not going to go and eat at a posh restaurant. No, it means I'll spend like 1,000 shillings to buy myself 2 buns, maybe for breakfast. I'll go and use like 5,000, which is about roughly $1.5 to have lunch. Considering that 2 buns go for 1,000, that's about roughly 0.3 cents. And then I'll do dinner with the balance. So really, it's something that you can make work. But that's if you are an individual. That's if you do not have family. So because if you have a family, things change. Things change. Things change. But I completely understand the context. Anyways, the game between Fulham and Nottingham Forest coming our way. We know that Fulham have been at the receiving end of some, beatings in recent times, but also they'll take solace in knowing that they've won 3 out of the last 5, beating up against teams like Sunderland, Tottenham, and Burnley. Whereas they lost to Crystal Palace and Manchester City. By the way, I forgot to mention, congratulations on reaching 3K subscribers. Very well earned. Keep up the good work, Mr. Tribe. You are amazing journalists. Thank you so much, Apedri, for that compliment. What's your favorite edition of the World Cup? My favorite edition of the World Cup, even though I watched it partially, was the 2002 World Cup. I felt there's a lot of talent. There's too much talent there. That was my favorite. And in second place, I think I'd go with the one of South Africa with all the noise of the vuvuzelas. It felt at home. It felt like it was really, really at home. For me, it felt like it was at home. It had that feeling of its own home soil, just because it was in Africa, and the kind of atmosphere that we're watching from those stadiums was really, really brilliant. I remember I watched the final in July, about just 2 days after burying my favorite grandmother. Painful as that was, I still found a way to smile in that final, because for that edition, I was really, really rooting for Spain. I thought they really, really had a good game, a good team. I remember placing a bet on their first game of the tournament against Switzerland. They lost that game by 2 goals to 1. I was very disappointed in them. I lost my bet. So, Pedri, you owe me money. Spain cost me money on that bet. But anyway, jokes aside, Pedri says mine is the 2018 World Cup because it was my first ever World Cup, and Qatar will also never leave my heart. I mean, at least for every edition of the World Cup has been amazing in its own way. I always want to forget the one of 2014, but there are things I remember about it. The reason as to why I want to forget it is because the 7-goal drubbing for Germany against Brazil, that was a humiliation on our part. But I also remember the flying header from Robin Van Persie against Spain when Spain met Netherlands. I also remember Matthew Valbuena having a very good tournament. I remember that's the year when I got to learn of Jadon Shaqiri, was really, really brilliant for Switzerland in that edition as an individual player. So then you come to the 2018 World Cup. I mean, very, very interesting. The things that France were able to achieve in that tournament, Croatia, very, very good overall tournament. And of course, Qatar gave us quite the experience, contrary to what many had anticipated. I think because of the stringent rules of them being a Muslim country and their cultures, a lot of people thought that their own entertainment was going to be gagged to the T, but you still felt that, were entertained. Titi says 2014 World Cup was the best for me. Best players, shame Spain didn't perform with all the legends they had. Qatar was the first one. I watched every game of it. So I do not think there's been a World Cup where I've watched every single game, but at least. So, for example, 1998, I did not watch a single game. 2002, I watched, I think, about a game or two, and not in its entirety. Why? Because we were at school. It happened during school time. We were in primary school. So you'd maybe run away from school during lunchtime. We had a friend who was staying, whose home was close to the school, being separated by a football pitch, literally, and slightly more. So would go to their home and stand and peep through the window just to get a glimpse. That's how we were able to catch, glimpse of that game between Brazil and England. So in that sort of sense. Then when it came to the 2006 edition, we watched a few games. We were at school. As I just joined high school, so we watched a few games there. And then 2010, again, we were at school, but we watched quite a number of those, especially those games that were being played on weekends. Usually we would request, I remember we requested permission to watch the opening game for South Africa against Mexico. And then the final, that one was always guaranteed because it came on a Sunday, and a few other games, really. So that's what happened. Pedri says, in World Cup 2026, I'm so happy when I saw Mexico and South Korea again, like 2018, England and Panama, like 2018, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, like 2018, Japan, Poland, like 2018. A lot of memory matchups to the 2018. I think that's his highlight from that. So yeah, I mean, I think we all have a fair share of beautiful memories from the World Cup in as far as that tournament is concerned. That comes every once in 4 years. Really, really brilliant stuff there for us and all the football enthusiasts out there. I know it's not a cup of tea for every single one of. Yesterday, I had a new member on the community here asking me, so what do I earn in watching football? As odd as it may sound a question to some of you, people wonder what we enjoy about football. On the big TV, I do not have a big TV. I have a fairly big TV, couple of inches, enough for me to know that that player is so and so, you know. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to do more. I remember it was a Spain Costa Rica when we won 7-0. Costa Rica there. Anyways, Costa Rica had players like Brian Luis, who previously played for Fulham. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest, on the other side, have had their fair share of defeats in the last five. They've won, I think, 3 games out of the last five, lost 2 against Brighton and against Everton, but beat up against Liverpool, Wolves, and Tottenham Hotspur in their last, 5 meetings. So we can see that these teams are in a fair share of form when it comes to winning 3 and losing 3. That's part of the reason. Fulham are 15th, Nottingham are 17th. That's why I settled for a 1-all draw for this one, and as far as my prediction is concerned. But when it comes to the last 5 meetings, Fulham have been quite dominant in beating up against Nottingham Forest. Last season, they beat up against Nottingham Forest, home and away, 2-1 at Craven Cottage, where this game is going to be played, while the reverse fixture earlier on had ended in a 1-0 victory in favor of Fulham. When you go back to last season, but one, that's when Nottingham Forest beat up against Fulham, beating them by 3-1. In the return leg, after the reverse fixture had ended in a 5-0 drubbing, with Fulham beating up against Nottingham Forest. And then when you wind things back to 11th February 2023, Fulham beat up against Nottingham Forest by 2-0. Why do I earn in watching football? Oh, what do I learn? I learned that you must learn that new environments might be better for you. Life, career, loyalty over money. Marco Royce, there are times of joy and times of sadness. That's all true. That's all true, Pedri. I learn about patience. I learn about always believing even when things are hard. That's really brilliant. That's really brilliant. So yeah, that's what's to be coming your way. Briefly on the Man United game yesterday, Ruben Amorim says the best team lost, and I certainly do agree with him. Like I said, guys, I did not watch that game. I was attending a function, but I managed to catch a few glimpses. I managed to catch the highlights and a few glimpses because I tried watching the game on my phone, but the internet bandwidth was so poor that it failed me. But yeah, everything, United dominated all the important statistics in that game other than scoring. Then Manchester United got a chance to see Lisandro Martinez being tried out in midfield when Bruno Fernandes got injured. We do not know for how long he's going to be out for. I think it's going to be a big impact on Manchester United, particularly because they're already without Amadou Diallo, Nusa Mazorui, and Brian Mbeumo, who has been one of their better players in as far as this season is concerned. Amadou Diallo, we know he's been a regular starter for as long as he's been fit, almost in that team. So losing the captain, Bruno Fernandes, is not good, especially for a team that struggles, that doesn't have many playmakers. But also, disappointingly, Kobe Mainu was lost to injury in the warm-ups to this particular game. So it doesn't do them any favors whatsoever. You wouldn't want to see a midfield that has Manuel Ugarte, or that has Casemiro alongside Manuel Ugarte, or that has Casemiro alongside Lisandro Martinez. Not really. You'd want to maybe, let's see, maybe they could play their Mason Mount, and then choose to play Joshua Zirkzee and Cunha as the 2 10s with Benjamin Sesko leading the lines. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's hope that Bruno Fernandes' injury is not as bad as first feared. So really, otherwise they will feel hard done by. But again, it was up to them. They were not clinical with some of their chances. That chance that falls to Matheus Cunha before even, in that first half, that he blazes wide of the mark with the goalkeeper literally almost lost, knowing that he cannot get there. I thought that was a huge opportunity. Then their defensively, in both in the two occasions of the two goals, I thought was really, really poor. They ought to have done better, in my opinion. They ought to have done better in that particular case. They did not close Morgan Rogers down. For the first goal, Lenioro was suspect. Even for the second goal, he wasn't helped. They literally ball watched for a second, and you do not need much for you to lose a bit of concentration before you get punished for it. So yeah, they'll feel that the best team lost on the day, but it is what it is. So that means they remain down in 7th place after 17 games played. Released Aston Villa are not going anywhere other than staying in that top 3 to keep tabs on Manchester City and Arsenal, hoping that one of them will drop points soon and they will be able to capitalize on that. Guys, it's 10:40. Allow me go run to other errands, get some work done, and one of my meetings has been postponed, or at least it's been. I see. I have a message here from one of my bosses saying they may not be available for the meeting, so we will have to do it on another time. I remember when you were praising Morgan Rogers on Friday when I was talking about Bellingham. I remembered you. Yeah, I mean, he's been brilliant. He's been brilliant for Aston Villa. He was brilliant last season. I really liked him. I think he ended with 8 goals and 10 assists in the Premier League. For the second consecutive game, he scored a brace. He scored a brace against West Ham United. And yeah, so really, I think for the people that love to see Jude Bellingham on the pitch, I think when Thomas Tuchel says I'm choosing Morgan Rogers over him, I think we'll come to an agreement that it's not necessarily out of bias, that at least Morgan Rogers has the footballing legs, that he is there on merit. Now he scored twice. True. Do you earn a little from this, or is it for fun? Pedri, I'm not yet earning from it because the channel is not monetized. That's why you've never seen an advert on the channel. Because there are certain metrics for YouTube that have not yet hit for us to be able to monetize the channel. So I'm not yet earning from it. But primarily, I do it for the passion of it. Really, I would want to earn from it to improve on our overall content delivery on the channel and the kinds of things that I envision for the channel going forward. So that's why I've told you guys that I need all the watch time I can get. So when you find a video from Football Tribe, do not skip it. We're building to accumulate that watch time of 4,000 hours. You must accumulate that in a space of a year for you to be able to monetize. In terms of subscribers, we've already hit the bare minimum of the numbers. That's supposed to be 1,000 subscribers. We are now at 3,000 subscribers. And thank you so much to all our new subscribers, people that have recently joined the community. Thank you so much for the love and support. So really, yeah, that's why I can't even set up a membership. For example, to say support the channel through these ways. I cannot set up that so that a person that can afford to give me $1 to give me $5, they can't do that at the moment because the channel is not yet monetized. But hopefully at some point we'll be able to, and then we'll be able to set up those kinds of things, memberships, donations, for people to help this channel whenever they can, really. Hopefully one day you reach your goals. Thank you so much, Pedri. Thank you so much. I would give you $100. Thank you. Thank you. But I don't know. If that were to happen, it would have to be off the channel. But on the channel at the moment, it can't happen. Our watch time is improving. It is improving, but it is not yet where we want it to be. It's not yet where we want it to be in terms of, cumulatively. So, for example, if I were to look at statistics over the last over the last 90 days, we have a watch time of about 827 hours. Now, that is below the average that I would want to have in a month. In a month, I would want to average at least 1,000 hours. So when you do the math for 800, with 3 months, that's roughly 200 No. Yes, 250 something hours, possibly around that. What's the current watch time? Yeah, current watch time. That's the watch time for the last 90 days. When you take it back, when you take it to, let's say, the last 365 days, which would form a year, it puts it at it puts it at about 2,000 watch hours, 2,000 hours of watch time, which is still only half of what is required. Those are some of the hurdles that we have to overcome. Is it only for live streams? No, 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 no. It's for everything. For the videos and for the streams. It's for the videos that we upload and the streams, because I think the shots are considered differently. The shots are considered differently. I do not think that this constitutes of the shots of the watch time that comes from shots. So yeah, those are the metrics on the channel. We are growing. We are growing slowly by slowly, and hopefully we'll get there. We'll get there someday. We'll get there someday. That's the hope. We just need to do more and keep improving, keep being consistent, and hope for the best with time. And hope for the best with time. So, guys, it's been an hour of doing this. So allow me wrap it up here. So have a blessed day. Thank you so much, Pedri. Thank you so much, Titi, and every single one of you that has been part of this morning's broadcast. Have a blessed Monday and a blessed rest of the week. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year ahead. I know we'll be here again tonight, but Merry Christmas in advance. Today is the 22nd of December. Christmas is only 2 days away. It's coming on Thursday. So yeah, for the first time in what feels like forever, we will not have Christmas time football the way we've usually had fixtures on Boxing Day, sometimes or Christmas Eve, and that kind of thing. So in terms of the Premier League. So guys, stay blessed. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.